Hello everyone and welcome to the Brithén-podden. Today we are talking English as well. And why do we speak English this time around? Well, today we have a special guest with us. And we'll quit goofing around. Welcome to the Brithén-podden. My name is Charlie Brithén. I'm here with Ted Brithén. And we also have a very special guest today. Ted, would you like to introduce him?
This is actually, you could call it a friend nowadays, and we call him Jonathan Lee.
Yeah, that is my name.
That is your name. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to kind of see where this is going to go.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here too. And I could tell what I know about you, but I think it's better if you talk a little bit about who you are and where you're from, and just fire off.
Yeah,
so everybody
absolutely.
gets to know you a little bit.
Absolutely. As Charlie lovingly put it, we are speaking English today because I am American. But I live in Sweden, and I've lived here. We're going on 9 years now. I never expected that I would live in Sweden. It was never anything that was on my radar. So it's interesting to kind of look back and reflect on it to see how my journey has kind of been and where I've gone and what I've done and how it's ended up here. I don't feel like everybody has a predetermined destiny. We kind of decide where we want to go and how we want to do things. And right now, my life has brought me here to Southwest Sweden, and I've met you, Ted. We've worked together on some things that were near and dear to me, leadership-based and personality-based, and understanding myself better so I could understand how to lead myself better. And obviously that carries over to the work that I do day to day with clients that I see. So it has been an incredible journey up to this point. My friends joke and say I'm the guy that's had 11 careers. I have absolutely lived life as big as I can, and that has kind of rewarded me with some incredible experiences. Most of my professional career most of it was in automotive racing and professional racing in the United States. That's where my heart had always lied. I kind of, as soon as I was old enough and big enough to hold a steering wheel and reach the pedals, I was driving something as fast as I could. That was kind of my childhood for a long time, and always had the dream that I wanted to do that professionally when I grew up. But of course, life takes different turns along the way. So the first career, I was in the U.S. Navy for many years, had a great time, loved my time in the Navy. Of course, I've been all over the world and seen places I never would have seen without that opportunity. At the same time, I always felt like there was something else I needed to go experience and to go grab. So after several years in the U.S. Navy, I left that to go pursue racing professionally. And that was my main focus, diehard dedication to that for many, many years. And I achieved it. And
what kind of racing did you do professionally?
Most people would commonly know it as the NASCAR series in the U.S.
Yeah.
I've kind of been in all levels of the professional racing in the U.S., stock car racing mainly, which is usually going fast and turning left. I mean, we turn right as well, but not near as much. So I found myself again. I left the Navy after a successful career there. They wanted me to stay, but I knew that there was more I needed to do. So I decided to leave the Navy, pursue racing. About 2.5 years later, I found myself. This was 2011 on a NASCAR team based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. Raced with them for that season. And interesting enough, found myself kind of burnt out. And for me, it was this confusing moment because this is something that I have known from, being 10, 12 years old. And now I'm in it and I'm there and I'm getting to do it. why would I be burnt out? I mean, this is the thing that I've always wanted. And for me, it kind of forced me to reflect and try to figure out what was really important to me. So to make a very long story short, I left the NASCAR series and I went and worked for Ford Motor Company for about a year and a half. Something very different. During the time of that, though, I was still talking to the guys I was on the race team with. And of course, they were, when you're coming back, we want you to come back. We want you to come back. And I kept kind of putting it off because I was worried. I was kind of scared to fall back into that situation again. And finally, through conversations, it was a situation where they were like, okay, what's it going to take to bring you back? And I said, okay, I threw out a dollar amount. And then they said, hang on a second. Yeah, we can do that. And so I was like, okay, here's another opportunity to do this better. So I went back and had another professional season in 2014. And guys, I'll tell you, I found myself in the same situation again. I had all the money you could want, doing the job people dream about doing, but I truly wasn't satisfied. I kind of didn't really have a grasp on myself. The glitz and the glamour of being in front of the camera all the time and all those things were fun, but it quickly wore off and I was left with myself. And I had to kind of look myself in the mirror, right, and try to understand what I was feeling and what I was going through, not knowing that I kind of had a lot of issues. I don't want to say issues; that kind of sounds bad, but I had challenges that I hadn't really handled yet. So when I was forced or chose to be in this high pressure, high stakes, in front of the camera all the time situation, all those things kind of came back from my past and my childhood and growing up that I was kind of have to force to deal with. And at that time, I really didn't have the tools to do so. So needless to say, I left racing again professionally, and through the magic of the universe or whatever we want to call it, I found Sweden in a car company called Koenigsegg, based here in Ängelholm. And I got to pause and tell you, it's kind of funny how things happen in life because we can't plan for everything. It's a Saturday. I'm at home. I'm living in Tennessee now. For those of you that might listen to this and want a geographical reference point, I'm watching this documentary on Netflix, and it's focusing on these supercars. And it's just a random Saturday, and I'm like, oh, this is fascinating. And then they say, hey, but this is in Ängelholm, Sweden, and I'm like, oh, Sweden. Well, I have a Swedish girlfriend who I've met in the U.S., and so I kind of watched this documentary and I'm blown away by the incredible thing that's happening here. And of course, a couple of days later, I go to her and I say, hey, there's this crazy car company. Have you ever heard of it? Koenigsegg. And she's like, oh yeah, Koenigsegg. What? It's not a big deal. And to me being a car guy, I mean, I was just like, this is incredible. I want to be a part of it. And kind of, I was in between jobs at that point. I was contracting for the Volkswagen Group in Tennessee. So I was kind of building their show cars and their press cars and kind of test driving them for the Volkswagen Group. But I was a contractor and I knew the contract was coming to an end. And I knew I didn't really want to stay there. And then I see this documentary about this crazy car company in Sweden, and I decide I'm going to go do that. So I reached out to Koenigsegg and said, hey, this is me. This is what I can do. Do you got a spot for me? And they said, yeah, we do. So after that happened, I kind of got things in order and made the journey over here with my girlfriend, who is now my wife. And it has just been a whirlwind ever since. Of course, now the story changes a little bit because I did go to Koenigsegg and I worked for them for just over 3 years, and I had a great time. And to keep things diplomatic, I'll say it's a very interesting place to work. I decided I was kind of done with the car industry. I had done everything there was to do. I was racing. I was driving these crazy multi-million-dollar cars. I felt satisfied. I felt satisfied and felt like I wanted to make a change. So then I kind of re-gripped my life a little bit and decided, what do I want to do next? Went back and finished my education to be a trainer, physio, and then started into this journey now where every day I'm working with mostly golfers, but some people don't play. Mostly golfers, trying to help them move better, feel better, so they can live a happier, healthy life. And that's kind of brought us to here, to the present day, which is I was in Humstad today with 5 clients. So that's a kind of a detailed backstory. But we can go deeper if you guys want to. You just let me know.
How do you go from racing to golf?
It's a fun question. Ted knows me well and knows that whatever I'm doing, Charlie, I'm 100% into it. Whatever it may be, if I decide I'm doing it, I'm 100% in. And I can get super nerdy about what I'm doing. You could even say to the point of obsessive. Well, I started to work as a trainer, taking care of people when they would come to us with injuries and pain and things. And then I just noticed in my calendar book that I had like 70% golfers. And I felt, okay, there's an opportunity here. So then we went and started another business, which was golf focused. And in the meantime of that, I needed to understand what bodies were going through to be able to swing a golf club as fast as people want to swing a golf club. So I went and hired a teaching professional pretty close to me. And it was about lesson number 3 or 4. We were hitting drivers. And he just kind of hands me this club. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? And he just said, well, just hit it as hard as you can. And I said, so I can swing fast. He was like, yeah, swing as fast as you can. I was like, okay, let me try to figure this out. And within 4 or 5 shots, it was 280 meters. And then it was 300 meters. And everybody standing around is kind of freaking out about what's happening here. Because
that was a Happy Gilmore moment, right?
A little bit. I'd like to say it was a little bit more professional than that, but similar feelings for sure.
Yeah.
Because I had never swung a golf club. It was never anything that was on my radar. If it didn't make a lot of noise and go fast, I really wasn't interested in it. But as life happens, now I'm swinging a golf club as fast as I can on a quite regular basis. And then, we fast forward quite a bit, and I found myself on the European Long Drive Tour. This season will be my 3rd season as a pro on that tour. Going back to being obsessive of the things that I do. Once someone said, hey, man, you're hitting it over 300 meters. What's going on here? Have you heard about long drive? No, I haven't. Let me go check into that. Looked into it, fell in love with the sport. That sport gave me something to drive towards. It gave me a motivation, something to work towards. And I've just been obsessive about understanding the body in the swing. What really makes things go fast? How do I keep things together without falling apart and having injuries? Which then spills over into all the work that I do with people every day. Does that answer your question, Charlie?
Pretty much, yeah. But
okay.
It's still a fascinating story because it's so random. I mean, a former NASCAR racer goes to a driving range and just happens to have a talent for swinging a golf club and getting the ball really fast and really hard, like a lot longer than the many of the pros.
Yeah,
just like that.
I kind of give a lot of credit to the fact that I played baseball when I was young.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if you're an American boy growing up, you're probably going to play baseball. Ironically, when I played baseball, I was, 160 tall and maybe weighed 55 kilos. So I didn't really have the size to really take advantage of it. But, my body learned how to move in those patterns, and those patterns are somewhat similar to the golf swing. So when I got a little bit older and got a little bit stronger, those patterns just started to show up, and I still feel like I'm swinging a baseball bat, Charlie. So don't think that.
The next question is: are you a good golfer, or can you just hit the ball hard?
What's a wedge? What do you use wedges for? No, I've of course had to kind of tighten up all aspects of the game. People don't want to pay for a lesson to come see me, and I don't know how to handle a wedge or a putter. So I've had to learn how to do those things too. And I've enjoyed the process. Again, I'm a little bit obsessive, so I wanted to truly understand how to somewhat master all aspects of the game. And I've appreciated that journey so far, because it's kind of, as you said, it's very much outside of my comfort zone. So I've kind of had to step outside of myself and really understand and learn this craft from a very strange place, which also meant that I didn't take into it, preconceived notions or this is how it should be done. I was just like, okay, hit this thing as hard as I can. Okay, well, let me figure out how to use my body to do that. And it came naturally.
Did you analyze at home by watching YouTube videos, or how did your research go into getting better at this that you had obvious talent in?
Yeah, great question. Of course, like most other golf enthusiasts, I have browsed YouTube, but quickly found myself a little frustrated and not really getting much from it. So then I just set out on a mission to find people that knew more than me, professionals in their areas, and went to go see them and spend time with them to soak up as much from them as I possibly could.
Nice.
What has been your biggest challenge about it?
I think the biggest challenge I've had with it is, honestly, it's accepting that, hey, man, you might be a golfer. Because it has been so, because it is on the opposite end of the spectrum from everything that I've ever done. So kind of putting that hat on and understanding, yeah, maybe you are one of these golfer guys. That's kind of been a challenge overall in the sport itself. Now, of course, I've had other challenges when it comes to the long drive competitions and things like that. And maybe we can get into some of those things too.
Yeah, it sounds, now when Charlie said this about Happy Gilmore, it sounds like a little bit kind of like that story, actually.
It's been a fun journey, I promise.
Yeah. And then 1.5 years ago, we started working together. I don't even know how we got into that.
I distinctly remember this. Of course, my wife was kind of starting to go through your program, and I was kind of always interested in the mental aspects of not necessarily performance. Obviously, performance is something I'm interested in, but I've always been fascinated with how people think and how people conduct themselves and how people communicate. And she's going through the leadership course with you, and I'm kind of picking her brain a little bit about what are you learning? What are you guys going over? What exercises are you doing? And so that kind of piqued my interest a little bit. And then I found myself going into my second season on the Pro Long Drive Tour, really kind of not really knowing mentally what I could do, how to handle what I was doing. And then she kind of mentioned, well, Ted might be a good resource for this. And I thought, okay, well, yeah, he was a professional athlete at the highest level, so he would have to know how I can perform at the highest level, because he's been there, even if the sport is different. Because again, I knew it was kind of stemming from a very mental, emotional place. So I absolutely remember reaching out to you for the sole purpose, hey, Ted, I want to be a better long driver. What happened after that was a different journey, which gave better results, and we can talk about that later. But I came to you because I wanted to be a better professional athlete.
When you talked about that in the beginning, I was just thinking about yeah, but this program that I have, I wonder if that's really going to work for the sport as much as everyday life. Because usually if the everyday life gets better, you usually perform better. So I was just like, okay, if he has some mental stuff that he want to see if he can figure out and be able to perform better, this is going to be an interesting journey for sure, especially hearing your background before and us talking about what you've been through and stuff. It was like, this is going to be so interesting, and it was too. And I hope you enjoyed the journey that you had during this time. But what did you feel that you learned the most during that program, if you think back?
Yeah, sure. It's something that I often think about. And it kind of trickles into most interactions that I have with clients or with friends or with my partner or whatever it may be. And that's how aware I am of one, myself, and then aware of them, and how they may be thinking, or of course, I don't know what people are thinking, but how they're maybe reacting to what I'm doing. But again, it goes back to the biggest thing being aware of myself in every situation that I can be.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's the self-leadership, that it's the purpose of the self-leadership. And I remember when I heard the word self-leadership, and I was thinking, why haven't somebody just introduced this to me before in my career?
Mm-hmm.
And when you started that journey, and we talked about this with the just being aware of yourself and how you're working and where you're coming from and all the challenges that you've been through during your life, no matter what age you were in, you still have stuff that are triggering you in some way, or
Yeah.
What do you call it when you get, vad är begränsad, Charlie?
Limited.
Yeah, when you get limited. Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we were able to become aware of and then kind of work through. Now, I have attempted to use mental performance coaches before, and felt like it kind of fell short, not understanding why almost at that time, even though their practices and their thinking processes that they were asking me to go through as the athlete, they were great processes, but it didn't really work very well or didn't go deep enough because I wasn't aware of myself first. And that was the big difference. That was the big difference.
So this awareness about yourself, can you like pinpoint more about where it has helped you in your everyday life?
Yeah, absolutely. The most clear example I can use is, and this is something that Ted and I talked about. When I go to a long drive tournament, I'm training my body, I'm training my technique, I'm trying to be as fast and as accurate as I absolutely can be. In the back of my mind, there was always this conditioning or limiting factor of, hey man, are you sure you're big enough to do this? Because most of these guys that I'm going to compete against, they're 2 meters tall, 100 kilos. I'm not quite that tall and I'm not quite that heavy. That was always something that was in my mind that, no matter how much I tried to work around it, I never could. The biggest reason why I couldn't go or, try to work around this was because I wasn't aware enough of myself to know where my true strength lied. I'm trying to convince myself that, no, yeah, but you can do this. You can do this. Oh, they're going to have a bad set and you'll get lucky. Well, that's kind of putting the results on something that's outside of control, outside of my control. But when I would become aware enough of myself to realize, hey, dude, you got some limiting factors, which are conditioning patterns that you've been told since you were 10 years old, which may or may not be valid now, but I'm still carrying them with me. I can remember distinctively playing baseball when I was young. I wanted to be a pitcher, right? Everybody wants to be the pitcher. Then I told my coach, and I think I was maybe 10 or 11 at this time. I said, hey, coach, I want to try pitching. And he was like, nah, you're not big enough. Hey, I want to try. I want to try. And he kept telling me no, and I just kept asking. And then he said, okay, well, let's go try it. And so after practice, we got to go out there, and he let me throw 3 pitches. And he was like, no, you don't have it. I was like, okay. So even though he just said, hey, sorry, you can't do this job, in my mind, it was, you're not big enough, you're not strong enough, you're not fast enough to do this. Now, on the flip side of that, he did not say, yeah, but you're great at catching the ball. You're great at hitting the ball where you need to hit it. Even if it might not go over the fence, you can still get that job done. None of those things were said. What was said was, you're not big enough to do this. So that particular situation turned into a conditioning pattern that I told myself over and over again until I believed it. I wasn't able to really work through, not around, but through that conditioning until I became aware enough of myself to understand, okay, well, I'm believing a story that was told to me 30 years ago, which may not be valid anymore. But if I did not have that level of awareness, Charlie, I never would have got there.
Interesting. So it became like a core memory that you carried with you all this time?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And when Ted and I talked about this, he was like, well, did you feel that way when you were racing? And I said, no, because we're all driving the same car. It doesn't matter how big I am, right? That limiting factor, that conditioning that I had, which would hold me back in other scenarios, didn't hold me back when I was in a car because it didn't matter. How long did you hold the gas pedal down? That's what mattered. That's what mattered more than how big or how tall you were.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, when you talk about the mental side and mental coaches and psychologists and all that, it's that you get insights about what you have or how you work a little bit, but you don't go as deep as you need to, and you don't get the tools to be able to really sit down and think about it. Because usually you go to a session and you talk about it, but then it's so hard to go from there and just think about it, because then everyday life goes and you don't get the really the tools or the questions in your everyday life to be able to really get that deep. But when you come to that's why the program is so good, because when you really have it, you can sit by yourself at home and really have the stuff that you can work with. And,
So
and
Ted,
that was yeah.
What's the big difference between you and Jonathan then? Because you were really small, and you heard a lot that you weren't big enough, you weren't strong enough, but instead of, like, Jonathan had that as a limiting factor, but you were like, fuck those guys. I'm going to do this anyway.
Actually, it's been with me. I think it's been with me almost all my career in one way, because when I came to certain situations, I can still remember that something triggered me, but in the other hand, I was, like you're saying, fuck those guys a little bit, but I was thinking that why should their truth be true for me? And even if I had the conditioning and I had the thoughts, and I was thinking, even if I was 187 and weighed 92 kilos, I could still have this little guy in me, this 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old Ted that was just saying that, oh, no, I'm not big enough to be able to go into this situation. And that could happen during a game sometimes, where I come into a situation where a guy that he's as big as me, but I instinctively think that he is bigger.
Yeah.
So I instinctively I do something else in that situation, and I protect myself in a different way, because I always had to protect myself when I was younger. So it has both helped me, and in some areas during or in the game, it actually it actually got to me a lot of times too. But I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't really aware of it until after my career, when I went through this program, and I really understood that, okay, this is what's going on. Why haven't anyone told me this before or helped me with this before? So it was just mind-blowing when I really figured it out. And that's why I remember when we had the session and we were talking about this with the conditioning for you, Jonathan, and you were just like, yeah, when I'm going up to that podium, I'm thinking to all the people around that I'm going to show them that I'm not too small.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It was my defense mechanism.
Yeah.
That was kind of my default. because I knew I'm about to step on this podium against these two other guys that are obviously bigger than I am. Are they necessarily faster? Maybe, but not. It's not guaranteed. So I kind of had the mental battle with myself all of that first season. Do you go up here? You know, let's just go see what happens. These guys are going to beat me, but let's just go see. Or do I go up there and say, nope, you know what? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you. All right. You said I was too small. Okay. Let me prove you wrong. So it's kind of, Charlie, it's a great question. It's a great point. That conditioning can be a motivating factor. It can also be a very limiting factor. If I'm living my life every day and consciously thinking about, I'm not big enough, would that motivate me to go to the gym an extra time? Yeah, possibly, right? Because I want to be bigger and I want to be stronger. So there can be a positive motivational factor there. But under that surface, it's still a limiting factor. And you can't go around it. You have to go through it, being aware enough that it's there, number one, and two, getting the tools to understand, how do I handle this? How do I not let it limit me, but how do I let it be a part of me and celebrate this part of me as I'm doing what I'm doing? That was the biggest game changer for me.
The thing is too with that kind of conditioning is that you can think about it in a way that, okay, I'm too small, let's say, in your everyday life. But if you always have your why that you have to prove for the other guys that you're big enough. So you go into the gym to prove everybody else that, no, I can get big. I can get big. If that's your drive, you really have to think about it, because it's something outside of you. And this is the difference too, because if you think that, no, I want to be bigger, not to prove anyone, I just want to feel better to be bigger, maybe wear the clothes better, whatever. That's the inner drive instead. And just to figure that out and know your why with it, that's the biggest reason.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And that's one thing, Ted, you and I, we worked on quite a bit, was the external validation versus the internal validation. I was always seeking external validation. And when you're racing, you get it, whether you want it or not. You know where you finished in the race. You know if you held the trophy up or if you finished in the garage. You knew that straight away. Did you let a bad race mean to you that you were not a good driver? No, because there were circumstances that were outside of your control. I'm on the racetrack with 31 other drivers, so some of that control is not there. But when I'm stepping up onto a podium in a long drive tournament, it's me and two other guys. I'm in full control of what I am doing. And this is the thing that you and I worked on so much, was switching from that external validation of, did you hold the trophy up or did you not, to, did you go up there and do the best that you could do with whatever circumstances you had? And when I made that shift to the internal validation, again, because I was aware that there was something I needed to change, the whole sport opened up. Performance got better. I had an incredible time. I wasn't going up hoping that this 2.5 minutes would go by as quick as possible, because all I wanted to do was get off the podium. It turned into 2.5 minutes of, let's go. Can I get one more? Because I switched from that external validation to the internal. And that goes for everyone in life. Social media kind of has a hold on people, especially when it comes to the external validation, because we see what everybody's posting, and I post videos too of my golf swing. Am I going to post videos of my worst golf swing? Absolutely not. I'm going to post the best looking swing I had out of the 75 I just took, but people will see that and compare themselves to me, compare themselves to what I'm doing. Are we in the same situation, skill wise, strength wise, technique wise? Probably not. So it's not a very fair comparison. But again, they're only looking at external information or validation to drive their internal decision, where it kind of needs to be
that's
the
probably
way.
the trap, though, because we all need
Sure.
external validation. I mean, you may have your inner drive, but somewhere, even though you get better at something, you know that you do what it takes. Sometimes you have to go out there and compare yourself and also get some words of affirmation or some other receipt that, okay, this is a receipt that I've made progress. And
Yeah.
I don't think you really can do that in an effective way with just the inner drive that you have and comparing just with yourself. Sure, you can notice that I'm getting better, but where am I standing here?
Sure.
That's why
absolutely-
I usually talk about inner glow and short fire. And if you think about these kind of aspects, because if you have the inner glow, then you're gonna handle whatever situation that comes to you, whatever, if it's an injury or if it's that the sport goes bad or whatever. But you have to have this short fire too, and that's the external validation where you get this excitement and you get this adrenaline, and you're going to compete here. But you shouldn't only be in the short fire, because if you're in the short fire, it burns up pretty quick. And if you don't have the inner glow, then you're just going to burn up pretty fast, and you're not going to get the performance that you really do need to be able to have the result that you want to have too.
So
that's just
what you're saying is,
yeah.
You should be a diesel engine with a really good turbo.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's important to have both, and to just be aware, again, coming back to that, just being aware of where am I standing in this question? What is my drive? And that was interesting to see you, Jonathan, going through this, and really you dug deep in this, and that was super impressive to see your journey with it.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, you kind of helped me along. You kind of guided me down the path. It was my path to walk, but you kind of helped, put some guardrails up here and there to kind of make sure I didn't take too many detours too far down the road. But Charlie, to your point about external versus internal, I absolutely agree. You got to have both. But if you're reliant solely on external without the internal, you're gonna just seek it all of the time. And the thing about external validation, that's coming from someone else. Someone else that has their own opinions of how good you should be or how fast you should have been, right? Is that accurate? We don't know, right? Because we don't know what their ideas going into making that statement might be. But getting the external validation and then processing that with your internal validation first, man, it's tremendous. It's tremendous. And I experienced it this last season. I mean, the first season I'm going to these tournaments, and it's my first pro season. So I'm kind of figuring it out. And all the guys see me there and they're like, who's this new guy? He has a Swedish flag on his bag, but he's American. What's going on? So there was a lot of learning going on. And the first season was a little bit alienating for me, right? Because I'm the new guy. Nobody really knows me very much, things like that. So I'm not in the circle. I'm not in the clique. I'm not in the group, so to speak. So nobody really said too much. The second season, of course, I busted my ass and worked as hard as I possibly could in the off season to be as good as I possibly could for the next season. And the first tournament, they see me again. Okay, this guy's still here. Okay, yeah, that's the little guy. That's an absurd example, but he's here again. Okay, let's see what he's got. And now it's a different ball game because now I've fixed my technique. I've gotten a little bit stronger. I can control the ball flight much better, and now I'm actually getting results. I'm getting the external validation from the results on the scoreboard. I'm getting the external validation from the guys saying, hey man, you look so much better than you did last season. But that would not have meant as much if I had not had the internal validation first. I guess that's the big point I want to make. External was great and we want to have it. But if I really don't have the support of the internal validation first, I'm just going to be living on little crumbs of external. Okay, I need another one. Oh, here's another crumb. Oh, I need another one. But I had so much internal validation that when I would get the external validation crumbs, to me, it was a whole cake.
But may I ask you, was
Sure.
the external validation a cause for your burnout in NASCAR?
That's such a good question. If I really think about it, I think the burnout came from something that was a little bit deeper. This was a sport that I grew up in. I loved it. It was something I did with my grandfather. I mean, the whole family was involved. I was the center of attention. I was the one everybody kind of crowded around and supported to be able to do this. I loved it. It was the thing that I was living for. And then I made it to the highest level you could possibly be, and for the first 4 or 5 months of the season, I'm just struck with all the glitz and glamour of what's happening around me. I'm in that place of, yeah, I made it. And I can still remember, and this is an extreme example of external validation. I still remember standing, and if you guys have ever seen a Daytona 500, it's like the biggest race of the season. It's the first one of the season. And you stand there, the whole team is lined up. You're in your race suits. You're lined up on the pit road next to all your teammates, and they're playing the national anthem, right? And I remember the exact moment where I'm standing there, the very first race, and they're playing the national anthem. Man, it hit me so hard. I mean, I was trying to hold back tears, but I'm this macho race car driver, so I can't cry, right? But I remember that moment, and it was so much external validation. To me, it was like, yeah, you made it, dude. You made it. Okay. Everything you did to get up to this point was worth it. Were they all good things? Probably not, but you made it. And so that was a lot of external validation, but it didn't last, Charlie. It didn't last because internally I was still trying to figure out, do I belong here? Am I really supposed to be here? When are these guys going to find out about me? I'm this guy that grew up in a trailer park with not much money, and we were borrowing money from here and from there to try to put a car together to be able to go out and run. And now I'm at the highest level of the sport, where someone else is paying the bill. It was an extreme amount of external validation, almost to the point where I couldn't handle it. And it quickly turned into, this is a sport that I love, but now I have to do it for money. And that mental shift for me was too much, because the love of the sport had been removed and replaced with, here's a dollar amount, go out and drive the car. Every race wasn't like that. I mean, I absolutely had a great time and we had some success, but at the end of the day, I didn't have enough internal validation to hold me in that place to be stable enough to receive external validation, good or bad.
And that's usually because when you come up to the level that you always dreamed of, then you have to ask yourself, what's my next why? Because it sounds a little bit like you were losing your why there in that moment. Could that be a thing?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
And you also have to be very careful when you take something that you love and turn it into a professional career, or even just making money from it. I'm just comparing with my hobby that I have, painting miniatures, where I have strictly said to anyone asking if I do commission work, because it's kind of a big deal. It can pay pretty good, but I just won't do it, because I know that if I take that step, it becomes work.
Yeah.
And then you lose your drive, and then you won't be able to do it. Not as you won't enjoy it as much as you do when it's just a hobby. And that's a big mental step to take, in even if it's a hobby or a sport or anything you do. When you take it professionally, You have to figure out, do I really need this? Or is this right for me? Because I think in any sport, when you go pro, the risk is there that you will lose it.
It's always in the back of your mind, for sure.
Yeah.
Am I going to have a ride next year? That was something we always thought about. Charlie, I want to turn this around on you a little bit and go to your example that you just used. You don't want to take a commission to fix a piece for someone for money. Would it feel differently for you if you had a piece that you liked, that you wanted to paint for you, that then someone came along later and said, hey, I love the work that you did on that piece. Can I buy that from you? So it kind of goes the other way.
That is something I actually do. I paid things up for myself, and then I might be able to sell it for a pretty good price. But then I painted it for myself first.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how can you twist that in the way that you don't see it as work, but you still do it for you, and it ends up in money?
It must be that I'm doing this for the love of it, and if someone wants to buy what I do when I've done it, then I can sell it.
Yeah.
It's not like you do it for the money. You do it for yourself, and then the money comes in when you are ready for it.
Yeah, and it comes back to being aware of you and how you really work. And there you can find so many. I've done so many different tools to be able to really understand myself. And there's so much good stuff out there that you can do to really figure out who you are, what you stand for, what you can have as a why, and going from there. And then it's the same thing within hockey. If you've been in a winning team and you win the championship, I mean, a lot of guys are just like, okay, now I've done this. What's next? And then usually they play 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years just because it's a job and they make money. And then all of a sudden it comes back, the why, just naturally, because they come into a different team that are aiming for something and they really want to do it together. But you can shorten that time so much if you're aware of yourself.
Yeah, awareness. You have to have that awareness. And the program, Ted, that you and I went through, it's the one. It's like the underlying theme that carries through the whole program is being aware, right? And if you can capture that level of awareness, the whole world opens up to you, almost to a detriment. You almost become so aware that you look at everybody else around you and you're thinking, do you not see what's happening? Do you not know where you are? Yeah.
Yeah. But how are you going forward now? How does the future look for you, Jonathan?
The future, Ted, you're going to be surprised by this. Charlie, maybe not so much because we haven't talked so much, but the future is incredibly bright. But again, it's kind of shifted gears again. I'm still preparing for the long drive season this year. I'm still practicing, getting everything ready. But if I'm being 100% honest, it's not my main focus this year because I kind of found something that is satisfying fulfilling my soul more than long drive ever did, and it's the closest fulfillment to when I was racing before I went pro that I have found. And honestly, it's been playing music and playing music for others. I had a show last weekend, and it's the best one I've done so far. But when you're performing in front of people, Charlie, and this is back to your point, I mean, in that setting, it is all external validation. Did they clap their hands? Did they get up and cheer? Or did they just sit there and stare at you? Right? I mean, it's instant feedback, good or bad. You get it straight away. But if I'm performing music that I love, music that I've created, music that I've kind of made my own, and I'm telling my story with it, I really don't care if you liked it or not, right? But it was the same comparison to painting a piece and then selling, or someone commissioning you, hey, can you paint this for me? Right? The first place it started was inside, and then it went outside instead of outside going inside. So back to your question, Ted, I'm playing music almost every day. I'm in my music room now, looking at my guitars. I've got shows lined up this spring and the summer, and we're going to see where it goes. I'm not setting out to make $1 million or, sign a record deal. I'm just making music for me, and it gives me an opportunity to go share that with others. And my wife had a great point about this. She said, why do you enjoy the music so much more than you did long drive? And you had success in long drive. You did what a guy your size isn't supposed to do. That's got to mean something to you, and it does. But when I go to these tournaments, I'm usually traveling alone or with a teammate. I go to this place, I hit golf balls for 2 days, and then I come home. My family's not with me. They don't get to celebrate in the victories or the losses. I'm just kind of lonely, for lack of better terms. When I go play music for people, I get to connect. I get to connect with everyone sitting in front of me. I get to connect with anyone in the room that happens to look over and listen to what I'm playing. And that connection, man, it just feeds my inner validation so much. And at the same time, I usually get external validation in a positive way from them. So it kind of a cycle of just my internal validation feels incredible. It's open to external. I get the external. Why would I not want to do it every night? And it's kind of where I'm at right now.
What kind of genre are you playing? My guess is country.
Yeah, everybody defaults to that. I've been reluctant to go down the country route. I don't know why. Maybe because people expect me to do it. But there's a little bit of country in there. There's some Bruce Springsteen. The Swedish people love Bruce, so I got to cater to the audience a little bit. I enjoy some of the music as well. But there's a rock. There's a heavier side to it as well, which I have so much fun with. Because I get to be an authentic version of myself. I can wear the leather pants. I can be 100% me and just let everything out. Because I'm on stage and I'm in that role at that time. And then I can step off and meet people and be genuine with the people that I meet and thank them for being there. And they tell me how much they enjoyed it. And yeah, so it's a mix, dude. It's country, Americana, rock. It's kind of in the middle there somewhere.
Yeah, I like that.
And for the people that are listening on this podcast, if they want to have a party, let's say, this summer, how are they getting into contact with you then?
Yeah.
Should we post this on the Instagram, whatever, something?
We should absolutely.
Yeah, of course we could do that.
Are you on Spotify?
I am not on Spotify yet. I'm working on some stuff for that. But if someone wants to have a race car driving, golf ball hitting, American sing country music, I'm your guy. And you can find me on Instagram. Most personal things that I do right now are on under my long drive name, PowerFade_LD. There's some things there. You can kind of send me a message there. I've got some music tidbits on that one. But there is also a dedicated music profile with the band that I'm the lead man for now, called Static North. So it's static_North music on Instagram. You can click in there and send us a message, and we can go from there.
We're going to tag it in our Instagram too. And in the post.
I didn't expect
100%.
This podcast to take that turn, but I'm not incredibly surprised.
No, but that's the thing with music too. I mean, comparing to the painting side that we discussed earlier, you're sitting at home, you're making songs, and then you perform them.
Mm-hmm.
How would it be if you got a record deal and some record company told you that you need to write this song? How would you feel about that?
I'm gonna take the Charlie route and decline.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can feel that answer before I even say anything. As soon as you talk me through the scenario, it's coming from a different place, and it doesn't feel nice. It feels uncomfortable to come into that place, as you said. I would much rather say, hey, I can play some music for you, music that's important to me. Would you like to hear it? Oh, great. All right. I can come do the party for you. No problem.
And that's why it's important to keep your integrity and
Yeah.
not sell out in that way that many people do.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, selling out is such an interesting term because it can apply to sport too, right? You know, you hear about professional athletes, they had a successful season with this baseball team, and then a lower tier team said, we'll pay you double the amount of money if you come play with us. You know, does that player sell out and take that deal, or do they stay where they are out of a sense of loyalty and no, I want to take care of my teammates and stay here for them? So I think that term sellout is such an interesting term because it can apply to life. Did I sell out on life, or did I live for me? It's such an interesting term.
And there's, if you take that as an example with a guy that was in the winning team and being the top guy, if you look at the self-determined theory, I think that's the word in English. And if you look at people and their score in this, you could say, then you could understand that a person like me, for example, that loves being in a team and just doing stuff together. So that's why I've been most successful in the teams that I've been in for a long period of time. And I really enjoyed being in the team and help out and doing all that stuff. But other people are just, they work in a different way. They just care about their performance and not the whole, the big picture in a way. And that's super interesting when you think about that. And just now when you said it too, it struck me that some guys, they don't really care about anything else than just their performance, and then that they get money for it. That's basically it. So they don't even get this feeling of that they lost something at all, because they don't really have something that they really love doing, like you are talking about now either. They love being able to perform their best all the time, and they don't even care about teammates or anything. Even if they're in a team sport, they don't care about them. They can't even relate to having this connection with people. And that's the interesting thing with humans. We're all different, and just being aware of that too just makes it so much easier going through life.
Yeah, because
everybody's different.
It doesn't necessarily mean that's something wrong with the person, that they are a certain way. It's just how they're wired.
Yeah, it's
absolutely agree.
It's the genetics in it. I can't even say the word.
Genetics. Yeah.
Genetics. That's the word.
Yeah.
Genetics.
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 Now you sound like a Swede.
Yeah. Love it.
So Jonathan, how have you found Sweden to live in? I mean, it's not, we're used to Americans here in Sweden, right? But mostly on television. We don't know like many normal Americans moving to Sweden and finding out the culture and our way of life and our way to be social, which is it must be quite hard for an American that's very outgoing coming to Sweden, and we're like, I don't know you. So it's gonna take a while to become friends.
It is absolutely an adjustment. Socially, culturally, socially, for sure. I've kind of lived all over the world and all over the U.S. in various times in my life. So geographic location was kind of, irrelevant, right? It was always about finding something that I was enjoying doing around people I enjoyed being around, no matter where I was. Obviously, in the Navy, you have no choice but to do this, right? You're going to be in some pretty terrible places sometimes. So being in that team, being in that environment with those people, location geographically wasn't a big deal. So geographically moving to Sweden, the winter's a little longer, the summer's a little milder, but that part was no problem. Socially, it is quite an adjustment. Now, I'm very extroverted. I have never met a stranger. If you are stuck in the elevator with me, we are going to have a conversation. And I know that Swedes get really uncomfortable with that. So I try to tiptoe into it, being aware of it, right? Being aware that I'm going into that situation. But socially, it can be a bit of a challenge because I'm a doer. I'm a thinker. I'm a doer. If I'm not satisfied with something in my life, I'm going to change it, which means my life might change from the outside from what someone may see, which means we're friends right now because I have this interest and you have that interest. But if I stop swinging that golf club and pick up my guitar, can we still be friends? In my mind, of course we can. In a Swedish culture, from my experience, it hasn't really been that way. A lot of the social interaction is based upon common interest, or you guys might not like this word, convenience. Oh, you have 2 kids. Oh, I have 2 kids. Let's be friends. Oh, they go to the same school. Even better. It's something I've kind of had to learn to accept. I feel like there are relationships can be in seasons. This season right now, me and this individual, we're great friends, and we hang out and we have a great time. If I change something in my life that looks different to him, can he accept that and we can still be friends? Swedes seems to have a harder time with that than what Americans would. Overall, I love it here, man. It's a great place to live. It's easy to live here. I will say that it's easy to live here. It's a little harder to make money, but it's easier to live here than it is in the U.S.
Yeah, and coming back to Swedes, even in our family, Ted, we're the same there, because with this podcast, we have this special episodes called Hockeypanelen, which is actually a reason for us to see each other, because we don't do that if we don't have anything that we do together. And it's very typical of Swedes. We have to do something together to actually hang out, especially men. Swedish men are really, really bad at I'm just calling to check up on you. We don't do that. No.
Yeah.
And that might be very confusing for someone from another culture.
One more thing, I'll pick on Swedes for a minute, and you guys can shut me off now. When it comes to like planning things or events or going to do things in the U.S., it's commonly acceptable for me to be sitting around on a Friday afternoon and text a friend of mine and say, "Hey, let's go grab a beer over here. Let's go get a burger." If I do that to one of my Swedish friends, they're going to say, "Let me get back to you. Maybe we can do it in 3 weeks." I'm like, I know you're not doing anything. let's go have a good time. The how should we say, the spontaneity.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from a comfort zone. Is it going to be incredibly comfortable for me to just drop something on you suddenly and let's go out and have a beer and a burger at this place if you haven't had 3 weeks to prepare for it? That is a big difference, I will say.
I think it has a lot to do with the Swedish history, actually. That is also why Swedes don't really like conflicts and are very prone to be peaceful all the time, because you have to remember that Swedish winters are long and dark, and keeping the peace at home is very, very important, because you were isolated. Your closest neighbor might have been like a kilometer away. And back then, it was cold, it was dark, it was dangerous. And also, if someone invited you to something, you needed to prepare to actually go there.
Sure.
Otherwise, if you went out spontaneously, you might die. So I think some parts is like cultural, but some parts are also in our genetics. Like, we don't really feel comfortable doing this because, back then people actually died. So I'm more comfortable with planning stuff.
Charlie, we could call this conditioning.
Yeah, probably.
We could call it conditioning. Is it a limiting factor? I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, the spontaneous ones, 1,000 years ago, the spontaneous ones who were adventurous, we sent them out on boats. Like, go raid someone. You don't like you. You can bring everything back, and then we can celebrate, and then we take what you've pillaged and plundered, and then we send you out again, so we don't have to deal with you back home here. And those were called the Vikings.
Says the man with a Viking tattoo, by the way.
It's a Norse tattoo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's a very, very different thing, because Vikings were like a trade, a job. All the criminals and all these. What I say, everyone with ADHD that couldn't control it and were violent and couldn't like fit into society, they must have come up with like, what do we do with this individual? Yeah, let him do what he does best. Just send him out on an adventure. And we found 16 of them here. Put them in a boat. Get rid of the problem temporarily. Hopefully some of them will die, and hopefully some of them will come back with riches. And then we can all benefit from it. It's a great plan.
This podcast took an interesting turn.
It usually does.
Yeah.
So that's where the Vikings come from. The rest were just Norse culture, and they were living peacefully as farmers. There is actually no such thing as a Viking society. It was they were raiders and pirates, basically. Yeah.
And now before we end this episode, I just wanted to ask you. I was thinking about a question, because you've been through so much, and you are a thinker, and you think really deep. And if you just think about one thing that you wish that you knew at, let's say, 18 years old, what would that be?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a heavy question.
Yeah, it's not easy to answer in a spontaneous way. But
well, I put myself on the spot here, so I better be spontaneous. But I've thought about this, and maybe you and I have talked about this, Ted. But the one thing that I would tell myself, at 18 years old, it might sound a little cliche, but it would honestly be, you're enough. You're enough as you are. Go live your life as yourself. Don't try to be someone else. Just find out who you are. Hold on to that dearly. Know that it's enough, and go achieve all the things you want to go do. The only thing that's holding you back is yourself.
Wise words.
That's a great answer. Yeah.
On the spot. How's that?
I love it. I love the answer. It's spot on. I couldn't wish anything better.
That's something you would like to hear if you ever meet your future self as a youngster. I think everyone would benefit of hearing that from themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it's going to be challenges. It's going to be ups and downs. It's going to happen all over again, time after time. But in the end, time will be your best friend, and everything will be all right eventually, as long as you don't give up, basically.
And you have to stay aware. You got to be aware.
Yeah.
Got to be aware.
Did we lose Charlie now?
It looks like it.
I think he went out to Charlie.
Raid. So he went out to raid and pillage.
Yeah. I think we lost Charlie. So I think let's end this episode. Cool. So now I get the opportunity to say thank you for this episode, Jonathan, that you wanted to come to this podcast, and we really enjoyed having you here, and hope you all the best in the future with especially your music.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Ted. As soon as we talked about this, I was excited to kind of share some of the things that you and I have done together, because the work that you helped me with truly was a game changer for me in positive ways, not only for my athletic performance, but in my personal life too, and everything that I set out to do from here forward. So you taught me how to be aware. Uh, you helped me understand myself in a very deeper way, which meant everything else I'll do from this point on means so much more. So thanks for having me, man. Great chat. I'm happy to talk about anything else you want to talk about anytime.
Thanks for the nice words. That was everything from the Britén podden, and see you soon again. Bye.